Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of what I'm now going to be calling the PTA episodes. So it's prayer, tarot, and the advice column, all wrapped into one. So I think I'm going to upload this on YouTube. So if you're listening to this on YouTube for the first time, here's the deal. Here's how this works. People submit prayers on my website, prayer requests. And then the way this format works is I say, I'm in agreement for. Like, I'm in agreement means an energetic yes. I'm in agreement for this to unfold. So what you're going to do on the other side of this is just be in agreement as well, right? So we're collectively fueling these prayers and watching them unfold. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into prayers first. Then I will go into the advice column. Then we will wrap up with a few tarot cards for the week. And of course, if you would like to request a prayer or if you would like to make a submission to the advice column and see if your entry actually gets answered, I will leave the link in the description box or the show notes. Otherwise, it's on the front page of my website, onyxhealing.com. You're welcome to make donations if you feel inspired to, if that feels good to you and like a fun move for you. You're more than welcome to do that. And let's go ahead and dive into this. So this first prayer is for Deborah, and this is just general, nothing specific going on here. There's no specific request, so I'm in full agreement for you to receive all of the satisfaction, fulfillment, and support that you desire in this moment. Full agreement for all of that to unfold. Okay, this next one is for Minu, and I am in full agreement for you to allow the well-being to circulate throughout your entire body. So this one is in reference to illness, but let's take the focus off of the illness completely, and let's just collectively hold space and be in agreement for allowing the well-being to wash throughout your entire system, for you to turn your attention and focus intensely on the well-being that is infinitely available and accessible to you. So I'm in full agreement for healing. I'm in full agreement for wholeness. I'm in full agreement for well-being to be what circulates and is filling all of your cells in this very moment. Full agreement. This one is for Pranab. I'm in full agreement for resolution with your estranged wife and for the well-being of your son's education. I'm in full agreement for you to also view your son's experience as his own and something that you are simply holding space for as he receives the experiences that are needed most for his soul's path in this lifetime and incarnation. Full agreement. This one is for the initials LMD. I am in full agreement for you to be open, available, and receptive to guidance, financial stability, and abundance, and for all of the pieces that need to organize themselves in order for you to move to this new city. I'm in full agreement for all of that to be in perfect timing, in perfect coordination, and for you to relax and enjoy the process of this unfolding. I'm in full agreement for you to be divinely teleported to this new location that you desire to be in, and for you to hear the guidance easily, for you to be available for that and focus your attention on the availability and receptivity more so than anything else. Full agreement for this to be a pleasant unfolding. This one is anonymous, and it is just a prayer for Max and Ruby, whatever is needed or best for them in this moment. Full agreement. Sending them support right now. Okay, this one is for Nava, and I believe this is a prayer. It looks like it was submitted to the advice column, but I actually think this is a prayer. So I'm in full agreement for the legal issues to be resolved with ease. I'm in full agreement for the custody situation to be divinely supported and work in your favor. I'm in full agreement for your sense of safety and security for everyone involved and affected. I'm in full agreement for you to shift into positive expectation of your ex. I know that's hard in many regards, especially when there's a lot of history and quote unquote evidence in the opposite direction, but I'm in full agreement for you to start shifting those pieces out so that you can evoke a new experience from this person and from this situation. Full agreement for ease, full agreement for strength, full agreement for courage. Okay, this one's for Elaine. I also think this is a prayer. It was just submitted on the wrong form. I am in full agreement for you to pass your certification exam, for it to be easy, for you to walk in with confidence, certainty, and conviction about the outcome that you desire. I'm in full agreement for you to relax into this and trust yourself, and for stability in any family or familial turbulence that might be present in this moment. Full agreement for that to calm down and for you to see your family through a new lens. Full agreement. Ooh, okay, so here is an excellent question that came through on the advice column. So here's the deal. The question here is, how do I trust or fully land in knowing that I'm supported in doing my soul work? So it says, I feel like I've been struggling with self-concept, struggling to view myself as successful, as valuable, as wanted, and it's translating into people not paying me or choosing to work with me. I know I have so much to offer. I know I'm called, but all the ugly self-concepts of rejection from childhood are coming to the surface. I'm so open and willing to shift this. So the thing is, this is what makes launching or putting your personal work into the world really, really vulnerable. And this is part of the initiation, because in order to hold more and more space for more and more people, you have to be able to walk through the fire of whatever gets lit up. And I know I've spoken about it on the podcast before, but I have definitely had experiences where launches didn't go the way I wanted them to go, or I've been rejected by clients that I was really excited to work with. When you're first doing this, it can feel really painful and really scary because it is super activating, because you have to actually look at the pieces that are still present in your energetic system that you're having reflected back to you. I promise you, this isn't permanent, because what is happening now is you're just getting the reflection of, hey, this is still present in my system. I'm still personalizing whether or not someone is ready to invest in themselves. And that's never, ever, 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 ever personal. It just feels like it because your heart is in your work and you care deeply about your work. I'm the exact same way. I care about people's results. I care about people feeling good in my containers. I care about people having satisfying experiences with me because I take a lot of pride in my reputation. I take a lot of pride in my work. So you can have all of that and also know that it's just an old story. It's just an old energetic pattern, and it's going to move through your perseverance. So once you, honestly, I know this isn't the most comfortable, but what I kind of want for you is for you to go through a whole bunch of rejection, right? Feel all the no's to the point where you get desensitized. Because no's aren't bad. A lot of the time, if you're getting a no, one, there's either some wisdom in that. There's some wisdom in the energy that you're holding. And two, if someone is telling you no, kind of look at it as thank God. Thank God you were told no, because what if they were a crappy client? What if they weren't aligned with you? What if it wasn't actually going to be a good experience? What if they couldn't pay invoices, or, there's so many other things that you can't see and that you don't know. So from that perspective, you can just look at it as, thank goodness I'm being spared from any inconveniences, any people that aren't really aligned with me or who aren't going to fully get the work and integrate the work. And it leaves space for aligned clients. So that's really what you're going for. You don't just want any client, you want aligned clients. You want an aligned job, right? If we're speaking more generally. But the rejection itself doesn't actually have anything to do with you. It's just old feelings. So the feelings can be there. And generally when I have a lot of old triggers come up or anything like that, I just take it as an indication that I need to get back into self-care. And I go back into those practices that really work for me. And then everything else calms down and then I can go again. At this point, I have had so many people tell me no. So many people tell me no. It doesn't even mean anything anymore. It's just the right people are yeses, the wrong people are nos, and that's it. In terms of you starting to see yourself as successful and valuable and wanted, where I would start with this, because I had a very similar thing in terms of I didn't feel wanted. That's one of my big pain points that I have as well. And the way that I started to move this was I looked at every single person who showed interest in my work, every single person who asked, every single person who complimented me, every single friend of mine who was like, ooh, that was really helpful. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I started collecting all of that as evidence that I am wanted. Because I wanted to feel wanted. That was an experience that I desired. So I started just by collecting the data that I have. And even if nothing comes of it, even if someone asks about a program or whatever you're putting out into the world, even if nothing comes of it, look at their interest as evidence. Look at the inquiry in itself as being evidence that your work is wanted. This is just a matter of getting through the initiation period. It's going to be a lot easier, and then no's aren't going to feel so personal. Because think about all of the times when you've wanted something, but perhaps not been in a position to invest in it, or different things and experiences and circumstances that it didn't feel like an aligned move, or it didn't feel like a good time for you. That stuff happens. Like, there's plenty of things that I've wanted but said no to because it wasn't the right time or it wasn't the right container. It has nothing to do with the quality of the person's work. So this is just a matter of continually reassuring your inner child that it's going to be okay. You're going to survive a little bit of rejection. You're going to become desensitized to the no's when you get through enough of them. They don't actually mean anything. You're going to get better at this. More and more people. The thing with business that's really interesting is that the more you just stay the course and you continue and you keep moving, keep doing it, it will start to bloom. It will start to blossom, but you have to give it enough time to mature. You have to give yourself enough time to mature. And so you will find that you get better at certain things, and then it just becomes little tweaks that you're making along the way, tweaks in your receptivity. So that's what I have for you. Give yourself time to mature. In part, it is an experiential thing where you just have to keep going. You have to keep moving through it. The goal is not to never get told no ever again, because that's damn near impossible, especially when you start growing an audience or when there are a lot more people who are interested in your work. Some of those people are going to tell you no, and that's totally okay. Sometimes people just don't pay invoices or don't, click the link to your program or whatever, your art piece, whatever you're putting out. That happens sometimes. It's completely okay. It's just a matter of knowing that you're gaining momentum as you keep going. That's it. That's what I've got for you. Okay, here is the next question. This one's about money. So the question is it easier for people who have never struggled with finances to manifest money? Growing up in a family with barely enough to become an adult who's spent my entire independent life living paycheck to paycheck at this point, it can feel that way. Like I have $25 to my name and absolutely no fucking idea how I'm going to come up with $600 to pay my rent in just days, and holding the correct energy to manifest it. It's like I've never experienced financial stability or anything close to abundance before, so conjuring those feelings feels fake or false or forced. I know I'll manifest the money, but any suggestions to help me get out of my own way would be deeply appreciated. Okay. So to answer the first piece of this, is it easier for people who have never really struggled with finances to manifest money? Yes and no. So here's what I noticed about people who don't have like a deep desire for money because they haven't experienced deep contrast, is that they're really good at stability more than anything else. So there's advantages on both sides. Let me explain. The advantage to being born into a financially stable family is that you have that anchored within you, right? If you aren't born into a family where there's a ton of scarcity, you're not going to pick up those patterns quite as much. You're not going to pick up that feeling state and those belief systems. And so you're really good at just maintaining financial security at whatever level you were born into. So it's more about the advantage on that side isn't so much about manifesting money. It's just the feeling of security is easily available to you. The advantage to experiencing poverty is it cultivates a lot of desire for money, and feeling the motivation and the desire to receive more money is actually really good for creating money. So that's the main advantage that you have to experiencing deep contrast with it, is all of a sudden it slingshots you into wanting growth and being available for that. I noticed that people who are born into wealth aren't necessarily focused on financial growth at all. The money might not even be something that comes to mind. It's usually other things that are a bigger priority. And so it is really ironic to see this. The people who experience less want and therefore grow more a lot of the time. So to answer your question, I kind of want to say no, not exactly. I would argue that it's easier for people who have deep desire and wanting of money. If you have that desire to experience more, you have the advantage. You have the advantage when it comes to the manifestation piece versus someone who's just simply not focused on it because they were born into money. Now, for the second part of this comment, let me address this. So you're saying, I have no idea how I'm going to come up with the $600 to pay my rent. My comment on that is, it's not your business. You don't have to know how, because people run into issues when they start thinking that they're going to know how it's going to happen when they come from the mind. You're always going to limit yourself when you start trying to plan things with the mind and only come from the mind, because the mind likes patterns. It likes patterns. It likes the continuity of, well, this is what happened in the past, so this is what I'm going to forecast is going to happen in the future. It likes that. So it's always going to pull you into a familiar pattern. And that's its job. In a certain regard, we want brains to operate that way. It's just that we want them to move in the direction that we want them to go, rather than recreating the things that we don't like. So it's none of your business how the money comes through. It's not. There's infinite ways that the money can come through. And for my business owners out there, I'm sure that you know this and have experience with it. I never know where my next client's going to come from. I couldn't tell you, and it surprises me all the time. And the nice thing about that is that it forces me to relax around the idea of where the money is going to come from, so that I'm open and available for surprises, for things going better than expected. So you want to create that same experience within yourself, is not needing to know how the money is going to come through, because your brain is going to limit you. It's going to limit you. It's going to restrict you. It's going to tell you no way, no how. That doesn't make any sense. And in manifestation, you don't actually want it to make sense, because if it made sense, then you would just live in the same experience time and time again. So let things surprise you. Be more available for not knowing, and let that be the cool part. This next part of the question is really interesting because I'm going to blow your mind right now. You said, I've never experienced financial stability or anything close to abundance before. Wrong. Incorrect. So you said in the beginning of this that you grew up in a family with the barely enough story, and then you've been living your adult life paycheck to paycheck. That is financial stability. So you can't hold those two things at the same time where, well, I've always lived paycheck to paycheck. Money has always been there, technically. It has always been stable. You have been living in the zone that you've been living in financially. So that's actually evidence of stability. That's not evidence of instability. It's just that you don't like the feeling of just enough. You're ready to springboard into more than enough. That's the next step. So instead, I would start telling the story of, I have felt financial stability because I have been living in this experience of having my bills paid. That's really good. That's a really good place for you to be. Is zooming in on the fact that money has always been there for you. It's just that you're ready to shift a little bit into overflow instead. The other thing that is wrong with your statement is, I've never experienced anything close to abundance before. This is also wrong. So abundance is not actually something that is exclusive to money. Abundance is something like you walk into a grocery store, you go to the produce section, and you see a huge mountain of oranges. I don't know. Okay, some of you are going to laugh at me because I always bring up oranges, and I don't know why. I don't know my obsession with oranges or what my deal is, but let's roll with it. It's just the first thing that came to mind. You see a mountain of oranges. Abundance. That is seeing abundance, that is witnessing abundance, that is you have the opportunity to feel into the abundance of looking at the mountain of oranges. Think about everything that has conspired in your favor to show you and reveal to you the abundance that exists in the form of oranges, or in the form of oxygen molecules that are floating around the atmosphere so that you can breathe, or look at the vastness of the road or the ocean or whatever landscape you're in, the hills or the grass or the trees. The abundance is something that is naturally occurring. It's naturally occurring and it's around you all the time. This is one of the things that I teach with money, is that there are trillions upon trillions of dollars that are circulating around you in any given moment. All the time. Think about how much money is circulating just in the state that you live, or the country that you live, or wherever. If you look at it that way, you'll start to tap into, there is so much available. There's so much floating around me. There's so many ways to tap into abundance. So instead of looking at, I've never experienced abundance before, you have experienced abundance. It's that you weren't focusing on it in a way that's beneficial to you. There's a difference between those two things. So start positioning yourself when you walk into the grocery store and you see the mountain of oranges. Really zoom in on that. Really admire just how much abundance exists and how all of these things have conspired in your favor. How this is all working for you. And that's something that can start to generate it because it's not exclusively based on money in the bank. For you, I would actually not focus on the money in the bank right now. I would focus on just tuning into the abundance in your immediate environment. Start playing with that, start feeling into that, start reveling in that, and that will start to activate more of the abundance feelings. And also focus on an area where you do feel an abundance of something. Maybe it's really good friends, or some satisfaction in the work that you're doing, or the love of your pets or your children or whatever. Start focusing on where there is an abundance and overflow of something, and then let that bleed out into the money area. So perhaps for now, stay off the topic of money if it feels phony and fake. The other thing, and I know I say this a lot, but I can't emphasize it enough. We're not aiming to do a 180. 180s don't work. It just won't. I had a friend tell me recently she had a whole bunch of stuff go wrong. Like she had identity theft and whatever. There was all this stuff. And she didn't have any money in her bank account. And so we were in the car together, and she said with the most solemn, upset tone, I have money. That doesn't work. That just doesn't work. Because it's like her tone, her energy behind those words was bullshit. That was bullshit. She wasn't feeling abundant. That wasn't feeling true. And so I told her, I was like, don't try to lie to yourself and convince yourself that you're rich and you have money when you're in the middle of a storm. That's not the move. Instead, you can focus on, show me how this gets better. I'm really available to see how my finances improve. I'm really, really available to watch and see how this works out in my favor. I'm really excited to see money roll in. I'm excited to watch my finances improve. I don't know how it's going to work, and that's completely okay. I'm just excited to see just how available I am to be fully supported throughout all of this. So you see, nowhere in there did I say, I have $80,000 in the bank. I didn't say any of that. I was just talking about general improvement in the situation. And that can be something where your energy can probably find, you can back your energy behind that statement. And if you can back your energy behind the statement, then you're going to generate more momentum in that direction. And that's going to feel a lot better, because that's way better than focusing on something that simply does not feel true in this moment. And that's way better than moving in the direction of focusing on the unsavory circumstance that you're facing. So you kind of want to aim at whatever low-hanging fruit feels good to you, and then from there you can blast off into the next manifestation. And the last piece, the last thing that I want to remind you of in terms of getting out of your own way, you have to relax. You have to relax. If there's anything that I wish more people would emphasize and prioritize, is their own relaxation. Drop the stress. You don't need to stress. Go listen to the doubt episode that I did and really, really, really soak that up, because the whole thing was about my mind wants to doubt, my mind wants to fear, my mind wants to get in the way, and I have to put that on a shelf, stick that on the side, and not fall for it, not take the bait of it trying to convince me that worrying is the way to do this. Worrying does not help anything, because it focuses in on the problem. Whereas what you actually want to be available for is the solution. And if you knew the solution existed, if you knew that everything was going to work out, you would chill, you would relax. So prioritize relaxation, do more relaxation, more relaxing activities, make stress reduction the priority. Okay, this next question is partly about Akashic Records. So basically, here's the situation. I'm not going to read the whole question, but the situation is you're aware that there's a past lifetime where you were a young man and you killed yourself in that lifetime. And so now there is somewhat of a fixation on seeing how that played out or understanding suicide. And the question is, why does this keep leaking through? Why is this information bleeding through into present time when this was, we suspect it was the last incarnation that I had, died at 25. Okay. So we're all here to study in part. You can think about the library of all of the books, which are individual lives that you've lived. You can imagine that the life that you're living right now is essentially just a storybook that will be stored in the Akashic records. You can look at it that way. And sometimes when we've had previous incarnations and we've done something or we've experienced something and then we come down to earth again, we kind of want to study that a little bit or feel a sense of completion in 3D. That's the best way I can describe it. So I've also had this happen where I had many, many lifetimes ago, I had this experience and then I dabbled in it again in this lifetime. Only for a couple of months, but there was this sense of, I want to taste this again. I want to experience a little bit of this again and understand this a little bit more. And then it just kind of fizzled out and became old news. So sometimes our soul is just curious about things or wants to explore something a little bit more or understand something while we're incarnated. So that's really all it is. But if you want to stop some of the leakage, what I would say is just gently close your crown. I know everyone's obsessed with opening chakras, but I cannot emphasize how terribly unhygienic that is. So you can just imagine like a lotus gently closing on your crown, and that can soften the amount of information that you have coming into your system right now. So that's what I would do personally. But sometimes it's just to provide some continuity between old soul lessons and gaining a deeper understanding while you're incarnated. That's it. Nothing major. Okay, now we will move on to tarot. We're going to pull some of these tarot cards, see what you need to know for the rest of the week. Or until next week, whenever I do another one of these episodes. Okay, we've got the Knight of Swords and the Five of Swords. I'm going to pull one more. The Hanged Man. This is reading as a lot of Aquarian galactic energy. From what I can tell, the main thing is really going to the beat of your own drum, allowing yourself to feel into unconventionality and doing things that aren't going to make sense to other people. So the main thing that's coming through here is insulate your dreams. This is something that I talk about all of the time is if you're feeling really good about something, if you're enjoying something, if you're really in the zone and feeling good, and you know that someone's a Debbie Downer and then you try talking to them about it, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Do not allow other people's limiting beliefs to get planted in your crown and knock you off center. Don't share your dreams, goals, and wishes with people who are in crabby moods or cut you down or aren't supportive. Leave them alone. Leave them out of it. Do not talk to them. Shut your mouth about these things, because too many times people want others to positively reflect, or sometimes people, and I've done this in the past as well, I've almost sought out other people's opinions to talk me out of something or boost me into doing something. Terrible idea. Terrible idea. Sometimes Jessica will be like, yeah, you should talk about it with that person, so that they can talk you out of this and they can give you bad news, because I know that this is going to go terribly. Jessica's my ego, by the way. So just don't do that. Don't do that this week. Either keep your community really, really small in terms of who you share these goals and ideas and aspirations with. Only talk about it with people that are your supporters. The only exception to this would be if you're so anchored into your truth that it doesn't even matter what other people say. And I get asked this all the time, like, well, what if someone says something that completely goes against what you want? I blow them off. I don't care. I do not care about other people's thoughts and ideas and opinions. And the majority of the time, other people aren't living lives that I admire or desire for myself. Why do I care what they have to say? Why would I care what they have to say? The life that they're living has nothing to do with me, and I don't want it. I don't want what they have. So ignore the people who don't have what you want. If someone is really embodying something that you enjoy and that you love and that you admire, and they're supportive to you, yeah, spend more time with those people who activate you in the right direction. For sure, but be selective with that. Be selective with that. Don't just listen to any old person. Be discerning. So that's what this week is really about. Don't listen to people who aren't supportive. Insulate your dreams, especially if you are, there's an eagle outside. Wow, that's beautiful. Anyway, excuse me. Just had to leave that in this podcast. Make sure that you are being highly discerning about who you're sharing things with so that it generates momentum in the direction that you want it to go. It doesn't distract you from what you desire. Don't talk to pessimistic people and expect them to gas you up and make you feel good about yourself. Don't expect them to support your dreams and think big and all that stuff. Just don't. Don't. The main thing, and this is what's coming through with the Hanged Man, is you want to make sure that you're grounded and anchored within yourself, that you are unshakable. You are unshakable. It doesn't matter what other people are saying or doing or thinking or what other people's opinions are. It's irrelevant. I'll give you a really good example of this, and then we will wrap up for the day. So I am having we could call it a minor construction project done. I'm going to reveal all of this on Instagram soon. It's really exciting. But in the next week, I am paying to have this construction project done because it will accommodate something that I want, a desire that I have. And I have been waiting months and months and months for this. Okay, this is a birthday gift that I bought myself that has been on back order for months. And I was on the phone with someone who said to me, I can't believe you're paying for that. That's so much money. That's so expensive. Blah, 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 blah. This person who said this is cheap as hell. So cheap, unnecessarily. Not in scarcity. She's not poor. None of that. Just absolutely has so much resistance to spending money on herself and spending money for experiences and living the type of life that I want to live. Like she thinks that I'm nuts and is simultaneously excited for me, but mostly she thinks the way that I deal with money is nuts. She thinks that spending $3.99 a pound on chicken breast is outrageous. So obviously, if I start talking to her about money, we're not living on the same planet. We don't have the same belief systems about money. And so I'm not going to listen to her. Why would I listen to her? Can you imagine, honestly, ask yourself this question. Can you imagine how ridiculous it would be for me to ask someone who won't even buy chicken breast if they want it at full price to give me some guidance on whether or not I should have a construction project done for this epic thing that I have coming in the next couple of weeks? With someone who has polar opposite beliefs about money. My view of money is the more pleasure that I allow myself to receive, the more I give to myself, the more I go for it, the more I play full out, the more that compounds, and therefore the more money I'll make because I'm in so much pleasure from this investment that I'm making and this construction project and this stuff that I've done. She thinks that the path to fulfillment is through restriction and contraction. And to me, that's never going to be the path forward, because when you continue to take action from a place of constriction, you're going to lead a constricted life. You're going to feel deprived. I don't want a deprived life. I want an explosive, wild, magnificent, dreamy, holy shit, how did she do it kind of life. So, don't consult people who do not have beliefs that are in alignment with the direction that you want to move. Just don't do that. Spare yourself the inconvenience of being knocked off balance. Or if someone does come into your space and happens to knock you off balance or say something that frightens you or makes you doubt yourself, that's just an indication that you need to get back into alignment. So that's what this week is really training you to do, is go for what you want. What you want. Plug your ears unless someone is affirming and supporting the direction that you want to go. You need to insulate your beliefs so that, and your goals and your dreams, so that they actually have the opportunity to grow, rather than cutting it down prematurely or trying to deny yourself your desire, which will never work. That'll never work. So, that's what I have for you today, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Don't forget, if you would like to submit your question for the advice column, I can't guarantee that I will answer it because, it takes some time, but I'll definitely answer them if I feel like they're good ones that I think would apply to a lot of people or be supportive to the podcast listeners. And you're welcome to submit prayers as well. I am sending you all so much love. Don't forget, if you are looking for anything else, go on onyxhealing.com. All of the goods are on there. And don't forget, sign up for my newsletter. Check me out on Instagram, all of the things. And I will talk to you all later. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.